You play better than that?
Yeah, probably. I mean, just working it out there, we kicked 5-13 in the second half to their 11-3. Now, you could argue they had better shots, but certainly that last quarter, 3 goals, 6 goals, for example. I mean, we just missed those ones to the right for some reason. But, certainly the intent was there. We came over to jump them early. I thought the boys did that, and I still remember the message on the board. I mean, make that statement early. Probably what I needed to do then was make the statement in the second and then the third and then the fourth quarter. They took their chances and hurt us on the scoreboard, really. But yeah, I thought the endeavour, and again late in the game, I just reckon there's signs that, as I said, we're probably not turning the corner on, but I reckon the indicator's on. If you know what I mean, we're starting to flash, the little flicker's going, but we're not around the corner, but we're coming up to it. And the more time the boys spend together, it's been a fairly busy and hectic start to the season. Not making excuses for them, but we travel up an hour up the road. I'm sure the boys are very keen to start playing some home games at Metricon Stadium, 15-20 minutes from their home, rather than driving up to the Gabba, which has been our home, I suppose, in the first part of the season. A lot of travel. I think 10 of our 14 games to finish the season off are going to be at home. I mean, 10 at home and then 2 up in Cairns and whatnot. So I think the boys are going to appreciate that, that's for sure.
You've played alongside and against some champion players. Have you ever known a player to dominate a game in such a losing side?
Yeah, I actually only had 3/4 time stats, and I was looking at them and I saw, who's kicked 4 goals for us? Oh, Gaz, okay, well, yeah, he spent a bit of time forward, and he had at that stage 34 disposals. I said, he's playing okay, isn't he? I think he's done everything right. And again, I think a lot of people judge Gaz on the stats and what he does out on the ground, but there's a lot of work he's been able to do behind the scenes with our young midfield, with our young group in general, and unfortunately we don't measure that. The work Josh Fraser's been able to do with our young rucks, Zach Smith plays the footy he does, not discounting the work Jeff White's been able to do, and all of them, Michael Riscatelli, Jared Brennan, all those boys, Nathan Bock down back and Campbell Brown. As I said, a lot of the work they do, because they're forced to do it, because we've got such a young side, but they've been fantastic, certainly on the field and off the field as well.
You've got the guy now, I guess it gives you a bit of time to have a bit of a pause about what you've been through in the first 8 weeks or so. You think you're about where you wanted to be or ahead of schedule? Or?
Yeah, I'm a fairly optimistic person. And my father's probably a very logical person too, so I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'll probably say where we needed to be, because we have shown. You look at the Essendon game, belted out of the park in 15 goals in the first quarter, then come back and 5-2 to 3 goals. So against a top 4 side, we're in there for a quarter. We need to, as I said, that quarter then needs to get to a half a game, needs to get to a 3/4 of a game. So we know we're off that, but as far as being able to compete and on our terms and match it physically around the ball and things like that with the clearance work and things like that, I think our structures, again, when we stick to those, are good. And again, it's just getting that chemistry and the boys playing as many games as they can together before that actually clicks. But yeah, I think we're around the mark, that's for sure.
Guy, 3 brilliant goals in the first 10 minutes of the first quarter, another goal in the first minute of the third quarter, and another goal in the 7th minute of the last quarter, which all suggests that the team is brilliant when it's explosive, fresh, fit, fast. Can you talk a little bit about fitness and stamina with this group?
Yeah, as far as where it's at, or
yes.
A lot of these boys. Again, one of the things that's probably the great unknown for us as we've come out of VFL season with most of our boys, and even the TAC boys, like Seb Tape, for example. He played a bit of senior footy, but we're coming out of a system where we've had 5 blokes on our bench. Then tip these boys into an AFL pre-season. Most of the first round draft picks have to do a limited pre-season and not by rights and rules to do a full pre-season. So they're not conditioned yet as a 3 or 4 year AFL player. So we know we're a bit behind there. So in short bursts, again, that's why I reckon we tend to look good. Over the course of a game, again, that's our issue. But again, what we try and do through the rotations is manage that. And again, going from a system last year where we had 5 on the bench to a system where we've got 3, without being rude, if any side out there is going to complain about 3 in a sub, I think it should be us, because we've gone from 3 live players or 4 live players or 5 down to 3, and that certainly makes it difficult for the fellas to adjust. And I said, you're not going to adjust. And I think every conditioning person out there in the AFL would suggest you're not going to do that in one pre-season. One of those players playing in a senior side's okay, but we don't have a normal senior side. So a lot of our kids are asked to play like men, and so that's why we sort of, have our peaks and troughs.
So even in this game, towards the end of the last quarter, there was a renewed burst of energy, which surprised a lot. It was not that it was particularly productive.
Yep.
That energy still came back. Do you want to comment on that?
Well, that would be mainly because of during the course of the game. That's the thought I'm having in the back of my head. So it's personnel changing. Michael Riscatelli, if you worked out, he probably played a first quarter and a bit. Certainly most of the first half as a midfielder. We rest him forward in the third quarter, then move him back on ball. So he had to almost, I'm not saying forwards have a spell, mind you, but not as hard working through the midfield. So he has that spell. So I'm conscious of that to make sure that we have that evenness of, I suppose, the running ability late in games, and that's what you have to do. So there's a bit of personnel changing. It doesn't change their appetite to work or anything like that. It doesn't change their fitness capabilities, but personnel can do that for sure.
From a coach's perspective, do you pace them in any way throughout a game?
That's the idea. We're trying to do that. With Dean Robinson and Andrew Weller oversee the player readiness, as we call it. And again, for them, they're getting used to these boys and the young fellas, and who can chew up the work, or the ones that come unstuck with that work. So I mean, that's a work in progress as well.
In terms of the season, are they coming into condition, or are they beginning to wear out?
Oh, no, I think they're and again, today was always going to be a physical test against Adelaide. We know Neil Craig and his conditioning department pushed their boys fairly hard, so it wasn't going to be a technical test today, it was going to be a physical test. And I said, look, with all those scores, and I mean, the shots on goal, inside 50s, 49, 56, I think technically we were there. I don't think our disposals were great. The work rate was there, but again, when you look at their spread from the stoppages, the uncontested marks, I mean, 56 to 93 almost doubled us. So again, that wasn't a structure thing, that was just a work rate thing. And again, I can only juggle Michael Riscatelli, Gary Ablett, Jared Brennan, Danny Stanley. Even when you think I consider him a senior player, and I think he's only played 10 or 12 games now. I've got to juggle those boys, so it does make it difficult on those blokes and then the young fellas.
Last question.
You said the only injury?
No, he wasn't injured. No, we just subbed him. Yep.